Well, it's a grey day, but it's a good day for what I want to do because we've had quite a few showers and, well, there's no wind at all. So today I'm going to deal with my ever dissolving wood chip paths. I'll show you what I've got to do. So this wood chip is very effective, but it rots down. It's almost like soil now, and I know some people use this for putting onto their garden. I've got to decide whether I'm going to lift what's already here and replace, or whether I'm just going to leave that. But I have got quite a few weeds to get out, so I'll be removing those. And I got some wood to move. That's my future gooseberry cage. And this, of course, is my ongoing raised bed construction. So I've got a bit of wood to move and a bit of weeding to do. And then I shall be ready for the next step, which will be interesting, I think. Well, I've decided to lift this sort of composted down tulips, because these wood chips compost down beautifully and make what is effectively a really good soil or compost for the garden. And I also thought it gives me a bit more depth to put the new substrate that I've got into it, and I'll need that, I think, to hold it in place. So I'm just going to make this first walkway free, and then I'll do a sample or a test and see A, how far it goes, and B, whether it stays in place. The idea of picking a day without any wind will become abundantly clear in a minute. Right, I'll get this done. That's pretty clear. Lots of divots in here, but it doesn't matter because that's the nature of these materials. They fill these divots and you can level them. That's pretty clear. And this stuff, if you're wondering what wood chip looks like when it's rotted down and decomposed, that's it. It's just like a really friable soil. Very good indeed. Get rid of that weed. There's loads there from just that one path, and I guess this is the most used path, so it gets the most pressure in terms of wheelbarrows and footsteps. And down here, not so much. So I don't know, we'll see how we go. We'll see how this test strip works and then weigh up whether the other areas will need doing in good time. So here it is. This is the solution. And I had this idea when I was clearing out the polytunnel after having kept the chickens in there during the winter. And also a number of subscribers and viewers have said, what about trying this? And I thought I'd give it a go. And the reason why I'm doing this is because wood chip is just not available in my area. The council won't deliver it. The council won't provide it. You can't buy it from the council. And the various tree surgeons around here, no, they're not interested in delivering it or making it available. So there is no choice other than driving up and down the roads looking for piles of wood chip that have been left from work that's been done, or buying something like this. Well, I worked for some time in an equine hospital as a manager, and they use this in the stables all the time. It's Bed Max. I guess they would consider it to be one of the higher quality dust-free pine shavings, and they used it, of course, in the stables. But one of these bales costs about £10, but it's very compressed and spreads out. So it's going to be interesting to see if this strip, which is, I don't know, probably 8 meters long, and see whether it actually fills it or whether it fills it with some to spare. And that will give me an idea of cost for doing more. Fingers crossed, it goes a long way, but we'll see. So I'm going to open it up and spread it out. So let's just open one end. This end seems to be partially open. And see what it looks like. So there you have it. It's a fairly, well, rough chipped wood or shaving. So it's got a bit of longevity. It's not like the powdery shavings that you can buy. So I'm going to empty a load out and see how far it goes. And you can see why I didn't want a windy day, because I don't want it blowing everywhere. And it would be absolutely perfect if it rained, and there are showers in the forecast, and they will dampen it and mat it together a little bit more for the drier days ahead. Right, that's about a third of a bale. So let's see how far that spreads. So all I'm going to do is rake it along. It smells gorgeous. If we had smell-o-vision, as I often say, we'd be laughing, but we haven't. So I get to smell it and you don't. But I can tell you, it's sweet and smells like pine. Okay, I'll bring you back when I've got this spread all over the path. Well, I've put that on quite thick because this is the main thoroughfare for me. It gets the most flow of people, barrows and everything else that we use on a plot. So I think I'm going to use this test strip to just work out how stable it is, and to see whether, with a bit of rain on it, it needs a bit more. But I reckon I've used half a bale. So this is my widest path, apart from the main path that goes across the plot, and all the others are relatively thin. So I don't know, I think I probably need more than what's left to come down this path. And I don't know how much more I might need to put on top of my test strip. So I'm going to leave that for a few days. Hopefully it'll rain on it. And we'll work out whether in the short term it works out. And then, who knows, the long-term test, well, there isn't really an alternative for me. So I'm hoping it's going to work out. I could put chicken bedding on here. That's a little bit more dense and probably a bit heavier, but I do like to use that up on the squash bed to feed the squash and pumpkins. So, jury's out. Let's see how it goes. I'll tell you what, watching other people's YouTubes can get you a bit unnerved, and I've been a bit unnerved looking at people's early sowings coming on well. I've seen Eli growing fantastic sized tomatoes. She's done a couple of great episodes on tomatoes. Go and have a look at those. But up here, it still gets cold at night. It's warming up though, and the last couple of days, we've had a couple of warm days, and it's really made a difference. These tagetes have got their second leaves coming. I can see lobelia all over this tray. This one, just a minuscule, tiny lobelia, and that tray's a real worry because of all the green on it. But this one was green, and once I took the covers off and allowed them to enjoy this little bit of warmth, all that green's gone sort of a calcified white, which is quite interesting. But hey, as long as the flowers come up, that's all I'm worried about. And yeah, I do panic every now and then, and I am panicking about my house tomatoes, because there's nothing. I don't believe those two. I don't think they're tomatoes. So there's nothing there at the moment, which has led me to take one of these little boxes and sow a few indoors, which I said I wasn't going to do, but I really don't want to be without those fantastic house miniature tomatoes. They're amazing. And nothing come up on these few moneymaker I've grown. I'm growing those for somebody else. Over here, these tomatoes are okay. They're starting to show second leaves, and same with these. And I was looking, this is my saved seed row, so 2 came up, and this is my new seed row, and 4 came up. So do you know what, if I can get what, that's 25-30% success with saved seed, that's fine. All I need to do is sow a few extras, and that'll save quite a lot of money on those because they're dear. These are showing some growth now. There's a whole mix in here, which is great. So not too bad. And my potted on onions just coming along fine. So I'm sort of going to rationalize what I've still got to sow. And looking in this here is my sort of March, April that I haven't sown yet. Parsnips, still waiting for a few more toilet rolls. Might have to get on with them. Spring onions, not too anxious about that. That's the money maker I sowed. So cucumber, anytime now. And Calabrese, this says sow in April and May, so that's fine too. And in my box of tricks, where I sectioned off for the various months, I've got my runner beans to sow, which I'll do shortly. Everything else in here has already been sown. That's not quite true. That is some squash. And this is my April sowings. So let's have a quick look in here. I know what that is. That's coriander. And I've got in here some more lobelia, and I don't know, just depends whether that one sparks into life or not. So I might do that a little bit later on in the month. My carrot sweet candle, which I need to clear out my sweet candle box because it's full of stuff, but I'm not in a hurry to do that just yet. April to June carrots, so no problem. Basil, I've seen a lot of people sowing basil, and basically you can sow indoors through to the end of April, so I think basil pretty soon. Courgettes, April, May, so they're a bit like the cucumbers. I can get those going reasonably soon. I'm just conscious with the cucumbers that they've always seemed to take a while to get going for me. So yeah, maybe I'll bring those up. More basil. What do we got here? Courgettes. And then we're on to some squash. So, I don't know. I think if I do those few, I'll be up to speed with the one that's pressing being parsnips, which says sow outdoors April, May, and I sow indoors to get them going, so not too bad. I think we'll be all right doing that. And of course I've got broad beans, and broad beans are going to go outside in the next few days. Going to plant them direct because that worked really well last year, and I don't see any reason to grow them in and then take them out following the success I had. So they are imminent. And then I've got a box or a bag of the really hot crops, which is squash and pumpkins. So they can wait a while too. So really, I think I'm onto these. So a few cucumber and some basil. Get those done. And yeah, should have a relaxing afternoon doing a bit of sowing. So what's going on here then? Well, I do like to grow a couple of boxes of mixed salad leaves, and I've sown one here which has come on nicely. Let me show you. And I'm going to use these for individual plants, and I'll sow those into a larger box or cells a little bit later on in the season, probably a week or so yet. And I've also grown some winter lettuce to see how they fare. They're a little bit slower. In fact, I've only got one come up so far, which isn't great, but then it has been a bit cool at nights. So I'll grow a couple of mixed salad leaves in here, and they can go over to the house when they're ready. And then basil, I tend to grow basil in pots because then it gives you a nice big clump that you can harvest from. And well, I've had to make some decisions about compost, as probably everybody is. So I have bought some peat-free compost, and my experience with it is that seeds don't do well in it. So what I'm doing is putting peat-free into the bases, using the bulk with peat-free, and then sifting some, this is Sure all-purpose compost on the top to get those seeds underway. And I've made some decisions this year about how I keep the cost of compost down. Of course, I make most of my compost myself, but I tend to grow all my seeds into compost that I've bought from the shops. So normally I would take compost right up to the top of these pots. Well, I'm just gonna have it a little bit lower in the pot, saving a bit of compost, and done the same in these trays. So once I've done that across everything, I think I'll probably save myself a bag or two. So I'm just going to try and keep the volumes down. And after all, using that much root space is plenty for basil, and probably another 3 or 4 inches of that for lettuce is plenty as well. So I'm going to sprinkle my basil on these and my lettuce on those, and that'll be those done. There we go, that's been quite productive. I've got my cucumbers sown, they can go there, and hopefully they'll be underway in not too long. And I've popped the lettuce and the basil underneath the bench, and if there's any cold weather, obviously I'll be covering all that up. Well, that's me pretty much done for today. I did want to show you my tulips again. I think they're at their prime. Take a look at this. Just beautiful. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and if you did, why not like and subscribe? And if you want more updates, click on the bell and you'll get those every Wednesday and every Sunday at 8 PM. Good times.